Airborne power and grace from a Boeing 747 on its final approach to Johannesburg International Airport. And on terra firma, an impressive display of rally horsepower at the start of the Gauteng Rally at the East Rand Mall in Boksburg. After a long, hard season, this was the final event of this year's Stanek Rally Championship calendar, with a number of championship issues still to be settled. The event drew an entry of more than 50 cars, headed by newly crowned South African champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd from the VW Motorsport factory stable. Among those titles still up for grabs was the overall Group N championship, where reigning champion Hannes Grobler was the leading contender.
The other guys in Group N is very near to us. We have to pull it through. We're not going to try and chase the A7s and A6s. I think we just go today and see if we can do well, finish, and score some points. And hopefully we can win the Group N championship for the second year in a row.
Looking to end the year in a blaze of glory was Sasol Ford driver Paulo Piazzamuso.
To end off on a high note would be fantastic for the team. But we've got to be realistic. I mean, we've seen this year we've not been really on the pace of the top two guys, Serge and Yanni, mainly because of technical bits. We've done some home development now through the help of Glen Hall, thank you very much. But we'll see. Proof of the pudding is in the eating, so today the stages will tell us if we've gone a little bit forward or not.
It was fitting that newly crowned champions Habak and Judd should be the first car flagged away at the start. The VW Motorsport crew were followed by arch rivals Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson in the works Castrol Toyota Conquest, with the rally expected to again develop into a duel between the two factory crews. Third on the road were Team Total pair Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, and they were followed by Piazzamuso and Richard Leake in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort. Day one featured 13 scheduled tar and gravel special stages concentrated on the East Rand in Boksburg, Nigel, Secunda, Delmas and Centre Rand areas. With more than 140 kilometres of special stage distance and around 260 kilometres of liaison sections, it was going to be a long day. Proceedings got underway with a longish stage of just over 14 kilometres, and with no pressure on either crew where the championship was concerned, champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd were looking forward to a head-to-head confrontation with the Castrol Toyota Conquest pair of Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson. The two crews were the dominant factors throughout the Stanek Rally Championship, with Habak and Judd going into the Stanek Gauteng Rally with 5 wins and 2 second places. Pride was at stake for Damso and Hodgson, who opened the season with a win on the Stanek Tour Natal, and then had to be content with a lone win and 5 second places in the next 6 events. The Castrol Toyota Conquest crew immediately threw down the gauntlet where Habak and Judd were concerned by winning the special stage by 3 seconds. Behind the two factory cars, there were early problems for KwaZulu-Natal pair Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. The Team Total Toyota Conquest refused to rev at full power, and the pair virtually coasted through the special stage and dropped around 40 seconds on the factory cars. If the opening stage was disappointing for Lawrence and Paisley, it was positively disastrous for Paulo Piazzamuso and Richard Leake. When the Sasol Ford Escort hit a causeway 900 metres from the start, it inflicted heavy damage, and the mortally wounded Ford Escort never made it to the end of the stage. After 3 non-finishes in a row that contributed to their dethroning as Class A6 champions, the Dunair Toyota Corolla pair of Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz had a point to prove. They were quick out of the starting blocks to set the 4th fastest time on the special stage, behind the 2 factory cars and Class A7 championship leaders Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks towing VW Golf. Van der Walt and Harding were locked in a title battle with Team Total VW Golf pair Barry Grobler and Mike Burrows, who had a mathematical chance of sneaking the Class A7 championship via the back door. Team Total Toyota Corolla pair Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aris were another crew who did not have to worry too much about championship pressure. They already had the Class A6 championship wrapped up, but the chips were down for Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon in the Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. They could be caught in both the overall Group N and Class N3 championships, but were responding in typical Grobler fashion. Behind them, Tony Ball and Marty Olivier were out of the championship running, but were Class A7 wildcards who could upset the Grobler Burrows apple cart. Another Class A6 crew coming off a run of non-finishers were Pretoria pair, Kali van der Merwe and Andre Vermeulen in the ex-Fecken Lukowitz Toyota Conquest. Like former champions Fecken and Lukowitz, the run of did-not-finish results scuppered any hopes Van der Walt and Vermeulen had of emerging as Class A6 championship contenders. For the pair, all that was at stake was a little pride, and they had set their sights on a top 10 finish. Pride was also all there was on the line for Cape driver Fernando Rueda and Jill Tarleton in the X-Factory de Mulanos. While they made good early progress, there was tragedy for well-known Witbank crew Rocky Reinecker and Richard Gerntholz. They hit the special stage 1 causeway that put out Piazzamuso and Leek, but with more serious consequences. The Hencom Motorsport VW went into a series of barrel rolls with Reinecker taken to hospital with 2 broken vertebrae. The Reinecker-Gerntholz accident put a bit of a damper on the early proceedings, with Jan Habak also a little unhappy with his lot.
You know, there's not a lot of driving skill in these stages so far. I'm not very impressed. And we have a small misfire, so, you know, we're running in 5th and 6th gear all the time. So we're not getting the top end speed that we should be getting. So, yeah. But so far, you know, we haven't lost too much time. But the strategy is, of course, flat out.
After 2 special stages, the newly crowned South African champions were in fact only 2 seconds behind Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson.
After the 90 left through a gate. Gate, then T left. 200 gate, then T left. 100 gate, then T left. Yeah.
The traditional East Rand Milliefield special stages contained a high percentage of flat-out motoring in 5th or 6th gear, with the factory Class A8 cars at times hitting speeds of around 200 kilometers an hour. Habak and Judd made no bones that their strategy was based on flat-out policy, and their sentiments were echoed by Damso and Hodgson in the Castrol Toyota Conquest. It was making for an interesting tussle between the top crews in South African rallying. But while the factory crews went at each other hammer and tongs, Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were still trying to get the Team Total Toyota Conquest to operate at full power. Lawrence and Paisley were now embroiled in a battle for 3rd place with Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, with the Dunair Toyota Corolla able to match the out-of-sorts Class A8 car for pace. Also embroiled in the scrap behind the 2 factory cars were Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding, who were showing some uncharacteristic early event aggression. They'd taken the fight to Class A7 championship challengers Barry Hrobelaar and Mike Burrows in the Team Total Golf. Hrobelaar and Burrows had to finish as high as 3rd overall and 1st in class to sneak the A7 title, but were falling behind the reigning champions. On the Group N front, the ubiquitous Hannes Hrobelaar and Nick Hatton were also tightening the screws on the 2 Team Total squads, Lev Blackman and Johan Klaassen, and Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper, who could catch them in the overall Group N championship. Early retirements already had Hrobelaar and Hatton running on the fringes of the top 10, and they picked up another place when they came across stranded Class A6 champions Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aris at the flying finish at the end of Special Stage 3. Damso cut a lonely figure in the dust, and Tony Ball and Motti Olafia needed to take a detour around the stranded Damso Aris Team Total Toyota Corolla. While Ball and Olafia lost a few seconds, young Damso, newly crowned as Class A6 champion, had a tale of woe to tell.
We're coming up to the flying finish on the end of Stage 3 and did a little S left-right, and we thought it was going straight on, so we just clipped a rock and the control arm broke there. So that's our rally run.
Further down the field, Cape crew Berto Mostert and Cobus Frey were building up an early head of steam and were part of the Class A7 equation. Behind the Cape crews, veterans Skalk Berger and Martin Buerta were starting to come into the reckoning in the Class A6 battle in the Bridgestone Quality Tyres Toyota Corolla, with the pair to campaign a Subaru Impreza 4x4 in next year's FIA African Continent Rally Championship. While Berger and Buerta were making good progress, Team Total Nissan Sentra pair Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen was slowly seeing the Group N and Class N3 championships slip from their grasp. The Group N title was also slipping away from Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the Team Total Toyota Corolla. They'd already clinched the Class N2 title, But they were waging war with Cobus Roos and Neil Fourie in the Hencom Toyota Corolla in that class, with the two crews sniping away at each other in an interesting little cameo performance. Going into special stage 4, a short all-tar affair in Nigel, only 1 second separated Jan Habak and Douglas Judd and Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson. Race cam action catches a mistake from the factory VW Motorsport crew with a little off-road excursion, leaving the VW Motorsport Golf with a flat left rear tyre. High-tech rally cars still go like they're clappers with flat tyres, but under these circumstances they don't produce optimum performance, and the incident was to cost Habak and Judd 15 seconds in their fight with the Castrol Toyota Conquest factory crew. Drivers don't particularly enjoy these sort of stages where an encounter with a curb can spell disaster, and Damso did a little extra braking to avoid contact with a road drag. Damso and Hodgson emerged unscathed from the stage and now enjoyed a 16-second lead. Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair Toyota Corolla were still embroiled in a private little war with Class A7 leaders Chart van der Velde and Cindy Harding, who were still on a mission. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were also part of the threesome battling it out behind the factory cars, but for Berto Mostert and Cobus Frey, it was the end of the line, with the Cape Pairs VW Golf not making it to the next special stage. Special Stage 5 at the Nuffield Industrial Park in Springs rewarded a good turnout of spectators. The layout of the special stage saw to it that at times, cars on their second lap were running closely with crews starting their first circuit. In one such confrontation, Class A7 leaders Chart van der Velde and Cindy Harding found Class A6 frontrunners Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz right on their tails. If you didn't know any different, it could be a scenario from a touring car race at AA Kyalami, but it provided the crowds with plenty of action. As far as the spectators were concerned, it was all good, clean fun, but for Group N leaders, Hannes Klobber and Nick Haddon, there was a bit of a wake-up call when they had an encounter of the closest kind with Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows in the Team Total VW Golf. No harm done in the end, with Krobler and Burrows still chasing Van der Velde and Harding, and Krobler and Haddon extending their lead at the top of the Group N leaderboard. There was also a bit of a battle between the Cliff Blackman, Johan Klaassen Team Total Nissan Sentra and Scott Berger and Martin Buerter, who used up more than their quota of road. Berger and Buerter were still on the move in Class A6, while Class N2 leaders Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the Team Total Toyota Corolla were still at loggerheads with Cobus Roos and Neil Fourie in the similar Hencom-backed car. Both Saunders and Roos are sons of former factory drivers with plenty of interest in their little duel. Class A7 runners Gijs Klein and Johan Barnard were in among the Class N2 combatants, along with Craig Trott and Brian Duncan in the Team Total Toyota Conquest in Class A6. Early Class S20 leaders Jackie Hubert and Jacques Cross were going great guns in the hybrid VW Beetle 4x4 that is powered by a turbocharged Volvo motor, and at this stage they were also top 10 contenders. Newly crowned champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd went into special stage 6, trailing Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson by 16 seconds. Now was the time for the trademark Habak aggression to surface, but behind them there was drama. The Castrol Toyota Conquest was coasting along, and it was obvious that Damso and Hodgson were in dire straits. In the previous 7 events on the Stanek Rally Championship calendar, the two factory cars had an enviable 100% finish record. Considering the intense competition between the VW Motorsport and Castrol Toyota teams, this was a remarkable statistic.
Plugged in the computer. Yeah, plugged in the back. Just push it in the computer.
It looked as though the law of averages had finally caught up with Damso and Hodgson, and Team Total pair Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were the first crew to go past the stricken Castrol Toyota Conquest. Precious time was ticking by as Damso and Hodgson continued to try and coax that car back into life. Hopes of a win to close off the season were rapidly disappearing, and when Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz also went past, the disgruntled Damso finally had to admit defeat.
It looks like the ignition, something cut out there, so it just swings where it doesn't want to take, so I don't know, maybe the cut out was something gone wrong there.
With the Castrol Toyota Conquest out of the running with what was later found to be a broken distributor pin, the Stanek Gauteng Rally had ceased to be a contest up front. New leaders Jan Habak and Doug Judd were around 2 minutes clear of the rest of the pack and were now faced with a drive through the park. Or should that be the Millie Fields? Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were still battling with niggly engine problems in the Team Total Toyota Conquest and had fallen behind Class A7 leaders Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, who were now up into second place in the Reeks Towing VW Golf. Where the A7 Championship was concerned, Team Total pair Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows were keeping their hopes alive, but had to pull something out of the bag. At this stage, they were not making any impression on the reigning champions. At the front of the Group N field, Hannes Krobler and Nick Haddon in the Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra were now solidly entrenched in the top 10. While they were tightening their hold on the Group N title, the pair were also locked in battle with two of the Class A6 runners. Callie van der Merwe and Andre Vermeulen were going steadily in the Toyota Conquest, but the Pretoria crew had been overhauled by Skalk Berger and Martin Buerter in the Bridgestone Quality Tyres Toyota Corolla, who were now also into the top 10. It wasn't turning out to be a happy event for two top KwaZulu-Natal teams. Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were losing ground to Krobler and Haddon in the Group N and Class N3 title chase. And a loose fuel injector wire had dropped Tony Ball and Marty Olivier down the pecking order in the Bulwer Park VW Golf. Behind them, Eastern Cape crew Dolph Coetzee and Mario Swart in an aging Toyota Conquest were making good progress. And in the middle of the East Rand Millie Fields found a little pocket of supporters who were a long way from home. The Jojo Tanks VW Beetle Volvo is an unlikely-looking rally car, but Jackie Hubert and Jacques Cross were still on the fringes of the top 10 and going like a train. The Delmas Service Park, with Etienne Lawrence and technical crew trying to figure out what they should change next on the Team Total Toyota Conquest to get it to run at optimum performance.